Hey, how are you guys? It's Mr. Hagen. Welcome back to school here, I guess, right? And so happy Friday. Today, I think we're going to read two chapters, chapters 10 and 11. Both of them are fairly short. But again, we learn quite a bit about Luke and his position and what's going on around in the world around him, right? So, I'll start off with chapter 10. When Luke went down to supper, he saw that Mother had set his 2 loaves of bread out on the china plate she used for holidays and special occasions. She was showing off the bread the way she used to tape up the crooked drawings Matthew and Mark brought home from school when they were little. But something had gone wrong. Maybe Luke hadn't used enough yeast, or he had kneaded the dough too much or too little, and the loaves had turned out flat. They looked lopsided and pathetic in the center of the table. Luke wished Mother had just thrown them away. It's cold out now. Nobody had noticed if you pull the shades. Why can't I sit at the table with all of you? He asked when he reached the bottom of the stairs. Oh, Luke, Mother started. Someone might see your shadow through the shade, Dad said. They wouldn't know it was mine, Luke said. But there'd be 5. Someone might get suspicious. Mother said patiently. Luke, we're just trying to protect you. How about a big slice of bread? There's cold beef and canned beans, too. Resignedly, Luke sat down on the stairs. Matthew asked about the auction Dad had gone to. I drove all the way there for nothing, Dad said disgustedly. I waited 4 hours for the tractors to come up, and then I couldn't even afford the first bid. At least you got home in time to fix that back fence before dark, Mother said, cutting the bread. Yeah, and yell at me, Luke thought bitterly. What was wrong with him? Nothing had changed, except he had maybe seen a face that maybe belonged to someone like him. Matthew and Mark suddenly noticed the bread Mother was doling out. What's wrong with that? Mark asked. I'm sure it'll taste fine, Mother said. It's Luke's first try. Luke muttered, yeah, my last, too softly for anyone to hear. There were advantages to sitting on the other side of the room from everyone else. Luke made bread? Mark said incredulously. Yeah, and I put special poison in the loaves that only affect 14-year-olds, Luke said. He pantomimed death, clutching his hands around his own neck, letting his tongue hang out of his mouth, and lolling his head to the side. If you're nice to me, I'll tell you which loaf is safe. That shut Mark up, but earned Luke a frown from Mother. Luke felt strange about the joke anyway. Of course, he would never poison anyone, but if something happened to Matthew or Mark, would Luke have to hide anymore? Would he become a public second son, free to go to town and to school and everywhere else that Matthew and Mark went? Could his parents find some way to explain a new child already 12 years old? It wasn't something Luke could ask. He felt guilty just thinking about it. Mark was making a big ceremony of bringing the bread to his mouth. I'm not scared of you, he taunted and took a big bite. He swallowed with great difficulty and pretended to gag. Water, quick! He gulped down half his glass and glared at Luke. Yeah, tastes like poison, all right. Luke bit into his bread. It was dry and crumbly and tasteless. Not like Mother's at all, and everybody knew it. Even Dad and Mother had pained expressions on their faces as they chewed. Dad finally pushed his slice away. That's okay, Luke, he said. I'm not sure I'd want any son of mine getting too good at baking anyhow. That's what a man gets married for. Matthew and Mark guffawed. Getting married soon, Luke? Mark teased. "Yeah, sure," said Luke, struggling to sound as devil-may-care as Mark. "But I don't think I'd invite you to the wedding." He felt a cold, hard lump in his stomach that wasn't the bread. Of course he would never get married, or do anything. He'd never leave the house. Mark switched to teasing Matthew, who evidently did have a girlfriend. Luke watched the rest of his family laughing. "May I be excused?" Luke asked. Everyone turned in to him in surprise. Usually he was the last one to make that request. Mother often begged Matthew and Mark, "Can't you wait and talk to Luke a little bit longer?" "Done already?" Mother asked. "Yeah, I'm not very hungry," Luke said. Mother gave him a worried look, but nodded anyway. Luke went to his room and climbed onto the stool by the back fence. In the dark, it was easier than ever to see into the houses of the new neighborhood. Their windows were lit up against the night. Some families were eating like his. He could see one set of 4 people around the dining room table and one set of 3. Some families had their curtains or shades drawn, but sometimes the material was thin and he could still see shadows of the people inside. Only the Sports family had all their windows totally blocked, covered by heavy blinds. That's a little indication of something, a clue. So now we move on to chapter 11. Luke watched the Sports family house constantly after that. Before, he had just looked out the back vents in the early morning and late afternoon when he knew people were about. But he had seen the face at 2 o'clock. Maybe the other kid knew the rhythms of the neighborhood too and let his guard down only during times he considered safe. For 3 long days, Luke saw nothing. Then on the 4th day, he was rewarded. One panel of one of the blinds on an upstairs window flipped quickly up and down at 11 o'clock. The 7th day, the blinds in the downstairs window were left up in the morning. Luke saw a light go on and off at 9:07, 2 full hours after the last of the Sports family had left. A half hour later, the Sports family mother drove in her red car and stomped into the house. 2 minutes later, the blind in the downstairs window went down. The mother left immediately. The 13th day was unseasonably warm, and Luke sweated in the attic. Some of the Sports family windows were left open, though still covered by the blinds. The wind blew the blinds back a couple of times. Luke saw lights on in some of the rooms, some of the time. In other rooms as the day wore on. Once he even thought he saw a glow of a TV screen. He had no doubts anymore. Someone was hiding in the Sports family house. The question was, what could he do about it? Right, that's a good question. So we're going to be looking for some evidence today to support the central idea. Central idea being there's mounting evidence that someone is next door. So we're going to look for some text evidence that proves that someone is next door. All right, guys. Enjoy a fabulous weekend. Remember, weekends were made for family, food, and fun. So enjoy every moment. So long.